Remember to tip well because
we're just as bartenders, we'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Bartenders remember you for one of two reasons, and you don't want to be because we dislike you.
Exactly. And if you tip well, they're going to remember
like
you. Yeah.
Probably.
So I tipped well. They served me this Eagle Rare on the rocks. And I was drinking with the bartender's husband. So she gave me the Eagle Rare. She was like, give this to my husband. Let him try some. Right. And it was really loud. There was live music in there. I handed the Eagle Rare to him and I said, hey, try this out. It's a really nice bourbon. And I thought I made it clear, like take a sip.
Just take a sip.
But he grabs it, bam, shoots it.
Slams it back.
Just gone. And I'm like, no. That was a really nice bourbon that I bought for myself that I wanted you to try just a little bit of.
Oh, God.
Did you know that over $5 trillion exchanges hands on a daily basis? That's an average of over $220 billion an hour. Now, how does this much money move every single day, and why does it move the way it does? Here on Drunkenomics, two bartenders who also happen to be students at the University of Nebraska Graduate School of Business are going to sit down and drink to the global economy and try and translate it into English. So sit back, relax, pour yourself a stiff one, and have a drink with us to the comedy that is the global economy.
Hey there, folks. Welcome back to Drunkenomics, the drinking podcast with an economics problem. For whatever week in a row, by power of the VIX at 27.02, I'm your more gracious host, James Goldwater. Across several states and across the camera from me right now is my esteemed or de-steamed, less gracious co-host, Mr. Aaron Wong. How are you tonight, Aaron?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. You sound tired for being the more gracious host. It sounds like it's been wearing you out. Are you okay, man?
It has been exhausting. I don't know how you carried this mantle for as long as you did with the same bright-eyed attitude I don't know how it didn't wear you out. This is rough.
Here's some advice. Okay, just drink a little bit more whiskey, and I think you'll be fine. In case you didn't catch that, that's
challenge.
This is the drinking podcast with the economics problem. So
if you want to know what we drink, where we drink, how we drink, and you can check us out on our social medias. So that's in the metaverse and on Twitter. More on that later. Right. And that's at Drunkenomical, DRUNKENM.
Oh man, you're so close.
DRUNKENOMICAL. I know. So I get there every time. I just nope.
Yeah, no, but if you haven't checked out our pages, feel free to do so. If you follow us, I want to say I appreciate it. We have some very smart alecky tweets, pretty weird observations, and really interesting. Can I say interesting? Interesting. It's a very vague word anyways. So very interesting Instagram stories.
I would say it's entertaining. Not necessarily in a good or bad way, just entertaining.
There you go. I think I can level with you on that one.
And then from there, you can find invites into our Discord where you can join us to fill and kill a general chat. Just some fun jokes. Definitely no financial advice available. None. And then, of course, if you want to send us some questions. I guess I'll drop into questions and see if there's any questions there. Yeah. I saw one a while ago from Panthson who asked us, what's the point of hedging as opposed to just investing to selling with your intended risk?
Well, this is the thing about hedging is just basically when you buy a stock, do you really know if it's going to go up or down?
No, you're hoping everyone else is thinking the same way you are.
Yeah.
Or eventually will if you want to get in first and be positioned. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't know if it's going to go up or down. So, if you buy 100 shares of a stock, let's say I buy 100 shares of Apple, and I'm like, man, I'm kind of worried about Apple going down. And if it does go down, I want to profit off of that and get some exposure to Apple going down. What am I going to do? You don't want to short the stock because you're long the stock. Why would you want to do that? Yeah. So what you can do is you can find something else, right? Apple's heavy in tech. You can short Microsoft. Maybe that's a way you can hedge against the decline of the tech sector as a whole. Or the decline against sentiment towards the tech sector. Or, of course, if you want, you can also buy what is called a put option. That basically gives you an exit point. That basically says, okay, I buy the right to sell Apple at 160. So let's say I bought the stock at 165. If the stock falls to 140 in 2 weeks, well, I have the right to sell it at 160 because I bought a put option. So that's why hedging exists, it's the same with if you're a farmer and you're worried about the price of corn falling. And if the price of corn falls, you're not going to break even. So what you can do is buy a futures contract that guarantees your ability to sell your corn for this price. Or if you're someone that's in the business of buying corn to produce bourbon, for instance, you can buy a futures contract that says, okay, I get to buy corn for $4 a bushel or whatever. I don't know anything about corn prices. I just know that they're at 12-year highs. But regardless, you have the right to buy corn for $4 a bushel. So if it runs up to $8, it's like, well, it doesn't matter to me because I have hedged against the rise in corn prices. So now I'm protected. Now I'm protected against that kind of price fluctuation and volatility.
Yeah, so
that's why you hedge. Yeah, so that's,
it's like kind of a simplified. It protects your position or price point. It allows you to protect that. So if you say you're selling out of a big position, so you've got a huge number of shares and you're selling. Well, as you sell, you would imagine that the price is going to start ticking down because as you sell, people are going to be like, oh, someone's selling, so I can maybe get it at a lower price. Whereas if you have hedged your position, you might be able to guarantee your entire exit at one price. Yeah. Even if the market ends up substantially more depressed. So you might, as you're saying, you bought at 165, you sold at 140, or the market's at 140 by the end of your sale, but you've guaranteed all your sales at 160. Yeah. So even though the reason the market's down at 140 is because you are selling, you are still selling it at the higher price.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why it is. That's why you hedge. It's because you're happy with whatever you're doing. You're just trying to make sure that what you're doing is all happening at the same number.
Yeah,
it's kind of the easiest way to explain it.
Think of like anytime you hear the word hedge, and if you ever study for a Series 7, like you're going to hear this in your study guide or whatever it is, they're going to tell you, like, anytime you hear the word hedge, just think of protection. Like you're protecting against upside risk or downside risk. It doesn't matter. If you're short a stock, you're obviously going to buy a call option to protect yourself against upside risk. If you're long a stock, you're going to buy a put option to protect yourself against downside risk. So that's pretty much it. And obviously hedging costs money, right? Like you hedge because you're uncertain. You're uncertain at like the overall market conditions. So, there's other ways to profit against it, or if you're just worried about a terrible earnings report, for instance, because earnings week, so I might as well use that as an example, or if you were long Netflix stock last week and you didn't know that Netflix had no pricing power, then you could have bought a put option and been out of Netflix at 300 instead of 206. So that's pretty much why people hedge, right? Because you just don't know what's going to happen.
You asked that a while ago, and we haven't. Well, you asked that last week, and figured we'd get to you.
Yeah, and I hope we gave you a pretty good answer. I don't know. I've drank a lot in the last 5 minutes because I didn't take 2 shots before the mic was hot, so I tried to catch up on the second shot just now, and I might have like overdone myself. So please forgive me if I didn't get there. Like I said, this is the drinking podcast. So therefore I was drinking. And speaking of our economics problem,
where to start?
Let's go on. Should we talk about the guy from the World Bank? Or
that's a fun one because what is it that? With all the government lending in the world, that 65% of the money ends up in Beijing at some point.
Yeah, which is weird, which is scary because if you think about the way China and their state banks act as lenders, they act like loan sharks.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're definitely more loan shark than banker.
Yeah, exactly. Which basically what it comes down to is they lend like the nation state of Malaysia a bunch of money, or lend the nation state of Uganda a bunch of money to build a bridge or to build
some infrastructure project, a power plant, something.
A power plant, a mine, whatever it is. And all of a sudden, they go way levered up because they use some crazy sales tactics. And all of a sudden, they go way too levered up. They owe $500 million that needs to get paid this week. Then they have to start turning around selling other assets like Michael Jackson and, cover their loan. Otherwise, these loan shark Chinese state banks are going to come in and start breaking knees.
Yeah, and you don't want to ask how Beijing's going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Metaphorically breaking knees. Yeah, so...
Yeah, no, I know he called for a resolution process for debt.
Yeah, basically...
That's better than the current system, so...
Yeah, but basically, I think what... So this is the president of the World Bank that said this, that's saying, like, we need to bring assistance to these developing nations that China is lending so much money to. We need to go there and give them other resources so that China so China can stop exploiting them, which is kind of...
It's definitely one of those things where I'm like, all right, well, the suggestion box is open. Go ahead and suggest your better system. It's an interesting point. Like, it's certainly that there are issues there. If that's how much money is just ending up going to Beijing to service debt, you get a pretty serious problem there.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2/3 of of government to government lending that China is now
on the receiving end.
Control
that's a problem if you're looking for stability or politically and economically, especially. That's interesting,
and especially the way the world views China. Communist country. The fact that they're controlling so much of these emerging markets and developing economies that have so many natural resources. It's scary.
Yeah.
It kind of leads me into, a wing of Asia called Indonesia. And this is something you brought up that I didn't know anything about.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Oh, yeah. The palm oil exports.
Yeah.
That's kind of new. That's in the last day or two that they've banned palm oil exports.
What is palm oil? As opposed to regular?
It's cooking. It's a cooking oil. So it's like olive oil, vegetable oil. It's made from palm. So it's a cooking product. And so the president of Indonesia had initially tried to create some export restrictions. Those were scrapped. And then they went with a full-on ban in the last 2 or 3 days. Oh. And so they produce more than anyone else in the world. They produce, based on what I was reading, kind of over at least 50% of the world's supply is produced by Indonesia. And now none of it's leaving.
But they also consume a lot of it too. So
they do consume a lot of it as well. So and so his argument for why he's banned the export is that inflation has been running away on food and other goods, but mainly on food. And so in order to keep food affordable, he's keeping palm oil in Indonesia so that people don't have to worry at least about that cost running up, as it's considered, I guess, a mandatory or very important critical. Yeah,
it'd kind of be like if in the U.S. we just stopped exporting oil, which we probably would never do.
Yeah, it's suddenly but bigger. It'd be like if if Saudi Arabia decided they didn't want to be in the oil game anymore and just weren't going to sell anything. That's a little more.
Okay, they only wanted to keep it in Saudi Arabia to help Saudi Arabians.
And right? So it's going to be a beneficial thing for Malaysia because Malaysia's number 2 on palm oil production. But what we're going to see is obviously palm oil is going to become more expensive globally, and of course that's going to drive up the cost of other cooking oils. So vegetable oil, olive oil, all those are going to be on the upswing now too. Dude. So if inflation wasn't bad, it's getting worse.
I know, my favorite thing when I'm hungover is hash browns. I love hash browns.
Hash browns without oil.
Yeah, it's really tough. And now hash browns are going to be more expensive, which I don't like. That's not good.
Have you enjoyed the discussions where essentially the Fed has just telephoned in that they're going to raise at the next meeting it's going to be a 50 basis point raise?
So this is what I want out of every single FOMC person, governor, board member. This is what I want from them is for them to just not say anything until the meeting and then release the meeting minutes all at once.
And then answer questions.
Because every single time, so like last Friday, I forget who was it that came out and said 250 basis point rate hikes in the next 2 meetings is in the cards.
Yeah.
And those are the cards we're probably going to play. And the markets got spooked on Fridays. Remember that? So if you thought Elon Musk's Twitter was bad, which we'll get to in a minute.
I mean, really, literally Elon Musk's Twitter.
Literally, which we'll get to in a minute. But can we just stop reacting to every single time a Fed president comes out and says something? Yeah. It seems like every other week. Or every day of the week, Bullard says something, and then Brainerd says something, and it's like, dude, everybody just relax.
Guys, stay in your meetings. Stop. Yeah, I agree with you. I really think they should. I've also enjoyed some of the things I'm seeing. So like Nomura is saying they expect 2 75 basis point hikes, one in June, one in July.
Clickbait. I'm calling that clickbait.
Of course it is.
It's Nomura.
I saw a funny one that was essentially 75 basis points is the new 25 basis points, and I'm like, all right, that's one way to do it. No,
I mean, maybe after the previous 25 basis point rate hike, the 75 basis point rate hike that if it happened in May would be the new 25 basis point rate hike.
Yeah, well, wouldn't that be nice?
Maybe that's what they're referring to. But it's strengthened the dollar. Whatever they're talking about, the dollar index is insanely high, and I don't think it's because the dollar is actually that strong. I think it's because every other currency in the world is weak.
Is that weak? You're seeing a lot of other people overseas looking and they're realizing, okay, inflation's getting really bad everywhere.
Yeah, but supply chain concerns are worse everywhere else than in the U.S.
Here than the U.S. And then the U.S. it seems is finally doing something to tighten its money supply. They're actually raising rates. And they look like they're going to start raising a little more hawkishly. He said, hoping against hope that was true.
Well, which is weird because we import so much, and you would think that our supply chain concerns would be terrible, but it's apparently worse in Europe.
Well, right? To be fair, I mean, Europe has a few different issues, not the least of which is a war on the eastern border. And then the fact
that's still going on. Yeah,
it's been 3 months. I think we can just sit here and say flat out, I did not expect the Russian to not succeed within 3 days, at worst 3 weeks, to be kind of really done with what they're doing. Yeah, another thing is that in Bryansk, Russia, I think I'm saying that correctly, which is kind of the start point for the pipelines that run through Ukraine and then through Belarus and into Europe, there were some explosions at one of the oil storage places. And
funny the timing.
So it was very early on April 25th. So it would have been on the 24th here.
In the US,
when we 25th
over there. Yeah.
So it's one of those things we're looking at it. And the explosions, to be fair, looking at like the images I'm seeing, they're not close together. So it seems to suggest,
my God.
As you may or may not recall, there was a possible Ukrainian cross-border incursion by helicopters that damaged fuel storage in a place where the Russian military was staging. And one does wonder if this is similar, or if it was just the incompetence of the people working at that factory. I don't know where they're from. I have a guess, though.
Exactly. Same here. But yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I don't necessarily think the dollar is necessarily that strong. I just think it's more of it's not like a dollar strengthening. I think it's just a weakening currencies around the world, that led to the UDX.
Well, yeah, you're also seeing, I mean, what is it? China's shutting down a new city almost every day.
Yeah, every other week
they're
shutting down a new city.
New COVID outbreak. Their oil demand has decreased. It was the largest single day decrease, or the largest period decrease since the beginning of COVID. Yeah, so I mean, you're seeing that the yuan's not as strong. You're seeing that the offshore yuan, and has a different name. I don't know what that. I can't remember what it's called. It's not. People are moving out of that and into the dollar because they see that the dollar is strengthening in terms of interest rates are going up, so they're bringing and are slated to go up quite a bit this year to bring inflation under control, which makes that dollar just that much more valuable.
Yeah, well, so like that's why the yuan versus dollar 1 year low.
Yuan's at
it seems like everything is a new low or new high. Just kind of like commodities and forex. Everything is new low or new high. It seems like. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
as I pour myself another shot of whiskey.
Yeah, which is going to be at new highs to bring us down to new lows.
You got that right. Speaking of new lows, should we talk about Disney now, or should we go to Twitter?
No, I think we've got to talk about Twitter.
Okay, so Elon Musk's new company.
He went the other way on that one. He surprised me, and he actually made the Tinder offer. He's offering to buy it for
Tinder. I hardly even know her. Tinder? I don't even know.
I made the tender offer. He's offering to buy for what? 45 billion? 44 billion?
44 billion. It's 44 and some change. Basically what it comes out to is $54.50 a share. So allegedly, if you own Twitter stock, at some point it's going to be bought from you for $54.50. Yep. It's hypothetical. A bunch of things still need to be worked out.
Exactly how they're gonna do that, but that's what's going to happen.
And it seems like this has been a very politicized issue, which I don't necessarily think it should be.
I think,
but it is.
It's one of those things where I look at it and I'm like, I don't like the guy. And
I don't like the guy either.
I don't like the idea. I don't necessarily like the idea of a private megaphone. Not that let's put it this way. I would not have owned Twitter. No. I have never owned Twitter stock. I would not buy Twitter stock. And if someone gave me free Twitter stock, I'd sell it. I might hold it for the 5402 now, but
this is the thing about Twitter stock. Like Twitter in its space has not been doing very well, because I feel like
their advertising's not all that targeted.
No, it's not. They have no pricing power when it comes to selling their own ads or selling their ad spaces to other companies. And then on top of that, like if it wasn't for Facebook doing Meta, like Facebook would have eaten Twitter's lunch, I think. But the reason why Facebook has been a terrible performance is because they spent way too much money on Meta.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money doing
too much too fast.
Yeah. They've made some interesting choices over there. The other thing with Twitter, like really looking at it, is they've only been profitable for what, 2 or 3 quarters, really?
Well, they've been on and off, and I don't know why. Like I don't know what they're spending the money on, but they were on and off for like the last 3 quarters, but. Last quarter, the most recent one, they were profitable. The one before that,
the quarter ending December 2021, their revenue was up 21.58% to 1.57 billion. They have net income of 181.69 million, which is actually down 18.2% year over year. So it's funny. Their
they have been on and off.
Their income's down. In September, they had revenue up 37%.
Were they profitable Q3?
Their net income was down. They lost $500 million. Their income was a loss of $536.76 million in Q3. In Q2 of 2021, they made 65.65 million. In Q1, they made 68 million. Right, so they're just all over the place.
So they're on and off, but like it seems like every time they come out with earnings reports, they always miss street expectations, which is not a good thing.
Well, here's the thing. So looking at last year, they beat revenue expectations 3 times out of 4. They missed in December. So they're a company that seems to not be able to keep any kind of return consistent and keep their position strong. It's one of those things I wonder about. And then obviously with the acquisition by Musk, I wonder if he can stabilize that, and I don't think he can. I think
I don't know what'll happen because I think he's got he definitely has the resources to put the people in place.
I think he has the resources to get the right people there. The problem is I don't know if he knows the right people. I don't think he knows. I don't necessarily know if he knows what the real problem is. And I think that and my big thing is he's said very clearly that one of the things he wants to do is he wants more people able to say more things. So he wants to undo a lot of the perceived censorship or actual censorship. Yeah. I don't want to take a stand on that issue. I want to completely blow past that.
Yeah, I don't want to say this. I don't want to say yay or nay on that.
If he opens it up to more people and it's perceived that Twitter is just full of disinformation and other things, that I think that if there's no perception that it's being policed, that you'll end up with advertisers pulling their money too. Well, I think he might scare advertising.
I think the only way you get around that though is like if the content is at least entertaining and if people can tell that it's joking. But the funny thing about tweeting is like sarcasm doesn't come over very well.
Sarcasm doesn't translate well.
Yeah, because
that is what we call trolling.
Yeah, but I mean, on a more serious note, it's like because I feel like if I could tell that it's sarcastic, I'd be very entertained by that tweet. But if I didn't, if I thought this is a real tweet, a sincere tweet, I'd be like, okay, why is this person even allowed to tweet? So that's kind of what it comes down to. And I think Musk's whole idea is just,
I think he wants a more laissez-faire version of Twitter. And I think that's a valid and reasonable thought for what Twitter can be.
Well, they have Reddit too. So
which I think is a little more laissez-faire, a little wilder.
Yeah. But it's obviously Twitter.
For me though,
it's not the same, but
no, you're a little more involved on Reddit.
Right.
For me, like kind of the Twitter buying, the most interesting thing to me is actually the amount of. So he is one of the wealthiest men in the world, if not the wealthiest man.
Oh, you're talking about the Tesla.
I'm talking about the amount of Tesla. His amount of Tesla that he shares that he has pledged against other debt.
Pledged, yeah.
Yeah. So right now, it's understood that Elon Musk owns approximately 17% of Tesla's total shares.
Yeah.
The total number of shares he owns is 172,600,000.
Which how many billion?
Which is based on close price today, worth $172,258,252,000.
Gotcha.
Now, 80 as of today, as of the Twitter purchase, 85% of those shares are pledged.
Yeah.
Against
to
something.
Me, so why? So I gotta ask, why 85% of $187 billion when he's buying Twitter for $44 billion, and he's not even buying all of Twitter? Well, is he buying $44 billion worth of Twitter, or is he just buying a controlling share?
I think he's buying all of it, taking it private. I don't think he's just trying to buy control and then taking control. I think he wants to buy every single share outstanding. It's my understanding, but we'll see what he's going to do. Details will emerge. So why is it 85%? So actually the 85% is not specifically just Twitter. It's all his other pledges too. So like historically, you guys have heard me be fairly upset, or you specifically heard me be very upset about the fact that you can borrow against shares and then you have cash, but never have to pay taxes on it, right? Because it's a loan, not income, and you never have to sell your shares unless.
Well, it's kind of like a margin account.
Exactly. In fact, for what he's doing with Twitter, it is a margin account.
Yeah, probably with like Morgan Stanley.
Yeah. So basically, of his $172.3 billion in Tesla wealth, so it's not money, it's not cash, but in wealth. He's pledged $146.5 billion, which makes him nearly $26 billion.
But he's taking it private, so and I think as a result of this, Tesla stock, which it did, got crushed.
Exactly. So here's why I think I kind of want to. The reason I want to look at this is I kind of want to talk about what this means for the Tesla stock. It means that essentially now only 15%, or just shy of $26 billion is still free that he can sell. And critically, as per this margin account agreement, he can sell his unpledged shares. He's allowed to do that. In some cases, you might not be allowed to do that as part of the agreement that when you go into that agreement.
Well, let's kind of look at like a margin account for just a second, right? Because if you have a margin account with a brokerage firm, you deposit $10,000 into a margin account, and this is like the most simplistic way to just think about margin.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, but you deposit $10,000 into a margin account. What happens? You normally have, in the most simplistic sense, in the most Reg T sense, you have $20,000 worth of buying power. So let's just say you buy $10,000 worth of Apple, right? You still have $10,000 extra dollars worth of buying power. So if you spend that extra $10,000 of buying power on like Microsoft, for instance, then technically like you're buying Microsoft on margin, you're pledging your Apple stock as well. So if Microsoft falls, then the brokerage firm can sell all of your Microsoft shares and then start selling some of your Apple shares if both those stocks fall.
Yeah, to cover their
$10,000 that you've borrowed from them, right? And obviously they would have to fall by quite a bit for that to even happen
before they would trigger that sale.
Yeah, but in this case, it's like, you know, Elon owned 100% of his Tesla position and is using that to leverage into buying 44. So he owned let's just round up $200 billion worth of Tesla. And then now he's taking that, you know, what would hypothetically be an extra $200 billion worth of buying power. He's taking that and using that to buy Twitter. $44 billion worth of Twitter, even though he probably already had a pretty big hypothetically margin balance because that 85% that he pledged was used to buy other things, apparently.
Other things until now. So it's up to 85% with the purchase of Twitter, which leaves him 50% free, $26 billion, just shy of that. But essentially that means that he still owns approximately 2.29% of Tesla that he can sell on a whim or pledge against something else.
Yeah, in case he needs to cover his margin balance. Because if he sells anything at this point, technically it's going to go probably towards covering whatever.
It's going to have to go towards covering
whatever
exactly.
That's
he's going to have to service the debt. And I know, and the big thing is like kind of the numbers that I've been reading and they've been throwing around is that essentially at the rate they're going on his on this buy for Twitter, he may be servicing essentially $1 billion a year in interest.
And honestly, and another thing too is like, so whoever his bank is, so if it's Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan, whichever one, I know one of them is for Twitter and one of them is for Elon Musk.
Yeah, one's for him, one's for Twitter.
Yeah, whichever one it is, they probably have him on a sweetheart deal for interest.
Yeah, well, I don't know about sweetheart. They're probably...
Well, I mean, they have some sort of negotiated commission. That's a guarantee.
There's a negotiated amount. They're not raking him over the coals, but they're not playing softball. You know,
yeah, but he could choose any bank on Wall Street to do this with. He's going to go with the one that probably gives him the best interest rate. Yeah. So
the issue though being is that, so remember now, if he sells his shares of Tesla or pledges against them for cash and he runs into a liquidity problem, this is where it begins to affect Twitter and it begins to affect Tesla as well, is that if Twitter keeps being problematic and it requires more capital and he can't afford it, then suddenly if he needs to access capital or it's that Twitter failing can now start to drag down Tesla is essentially, or Musk needing free capital, free cash. He may have to sell shares, which will lower the price, which will, right? So it could theoretically, if things go wrong, as I'll be honest, I fully expect things to go wrong in the next year.
Yeah, but I don't think there's going to get better. I don't think there's going to be a liquidity concern though. That's what I'm saying. Could the value of the equity go down? Absolutely. But could there liquidity concerons? I don't necessarily think it's going to be a problem. Well, there's going to be a buyer.
I think there'll be a buy. That's not what I mean. What I mean is though,
maybe $44 billion worth. That might. Okay. That's what you're saying is like if $44 billion worth of Twitter.
Yeah, you could theoretically see this price dragging down and him having to sell in order to shore it up. My concern with all this is I believe he has overextended himself and he does not know that yet.
I don't know though, because
if you were to tell me that I've pledged 85% of my wealth into a game that I don't know how to play and I've only got 15% left, but that 15%, if the 85% starts to fail, the 15% starts to fail too, I'd be very, very concerned.
I'll be honest with you.
He could walk away tomorrow with $2 billion in cash and cash equivalents, and he'd be fine.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Is like I think at the end of the day he's going to be fine. I don't necessarily think Twitter is going to fail because I think with the IP it has, with the infrastructure of the company already in place, like I don't necessarily think it's going to fail.
No, I don't think it's going to fail. I just don't know if it's going to succeed. And I think
but I also think Tesla as a company will be fine as well too.
Because
operationally,
Tesla's an okay company. It's a great research and tech firm, and development firm, if that's what you want to think. It's a horrifyingly bad car manufacturer.
It's a very from a car. If you view Tesla as a car company, you're an idiot, because it's not a car company. It's a data company. It's a tech company. It's a supply chain company. It's all those things, right? They store every time you drive on the road. The car will store data and send it to like a Tesla database. Like it's crazy the technology that they have there.
Oh yeah.
Do I think it's undervalued. I don't know.
I think it's overvalued, but that's
me too.
And to be fair, the other day so Elon Musk. So
yeah, exactly.
I mean, look, I think the guy's an idiot, but at least he's an honest idiot at that point.
Yeah,
Well,
he actually said that. Like he actually tweeted it out. Like I think the stock is too valuable.
Which is really an interesting thing to
say about your own company.
To say about your own company on the tool of a company you're about to buy by pledging the shares of the company that you think is overvalued. So I'm very confused. I guess what I'm saying is if things start going wrong, I think he could find himself in a problematic pickle, and it could be.
That goes without saying, but I don't think I don't necessarily think the prospects of that happening are very likely. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not even saying it's improbable, but
to me, it's at the point when the bank reaches that trigger point and it starts selling his shares to recoup their money. That's when I think you see like a major drop in prices, and he's not in a position to.
So does Tesla, or excuse me, so does Twitter then become owned by Morgan Stanley or whoever he's, because think about it, like what would happen?
Well, they're going to sell his Tesla shares to settle his debt with them. That's it. He still gets. My assumption is he's still going to get to own Twitter. It's just that he's going to own less of Tesla.
Yeah, and he's got to find a way quickly to make Twitter more profitable, which I don't think is impossible for him. Like I think he can definitely do it, but it's definitely it's a very steep uphill battle. Like it's not going to be easy.
Well, as we've looked at, revenues are up, but net income's down. Revenues have been up, and net income's been down quite a bit lately, and it's like whatever you're doing is becoming more expensive to do.
Well, and on top of that, I think what's going to happen is I don't necessarily think everybody that works at Twitter necessarily wants to work for Elon Musk.
No, I think you're going to see,
especially the high dollar positions. Yeah, but I do think, like Elon Musk even said, like the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pay the board nothing. He's like currently the board makes this much. I'm going to pay them nothing. So
it's
which I think is pretty brilliant.
I mean, it's a thing to say. He wants to be a one-man board, and if that's the case, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
The problem is it's going to be really hard if he's not paying the board and the board quits and it becomes a one-man board. It's going to be really hard to explain lack of success as not his fault.
Yeah, or any sort of production. But like it's his game. We're just.
But to be fair, then he doesn't share credit if it's wildly successful either. So
exactly.
It's big risk, big reward.
I was going to say risk
reward. Another
reward.
interesting thing is, kind of speaking to Twitter's board, is that the state of Florida, or rather Ron DeSantis last week, the governor of the state of Florida, said that he was exploring the option of suing the Twitter board for not accepting the offer because the pension plans of the state of Florida were invested in Twitter, and so he claimed that he had damages from that.
Yeah, which I'm like, first of all, I feel like if you invest for the pension of a state, like, should you be allowed to vote? I don't know, but I know the guy I know, like in Chicago, they do.
I think you should be allowed to vote on whether or not you take riskier positions, but but I don't think you.
This one,
when you are the state, you have very little business, if any. I think you have zero business dictating what businesses do, other than through law. Right, so you have regulation and law, but you don't get to box them in and then turn around on the other hand and tell them, hey, you need to get us more money too. You can't squeeze from both sides. That's not okay.
Yeah,
it's like that's why it's very interesting to have Ron DeSantis, a Republican governor. Republicans are the ones that say the government
needs to stay out of business.
But he's sitting here going, I'm going to sue the board because they didn't make the business decision that I wanted them to. And it's like, dude.
DeSantis says Florida is looking into pension plan to divest from Twitter.
To me, this is that. And I hate to get political on this part, but it's like it's this point where these guys sit here and they hate big government, they hate government interventionism, but they're more than happy to do it when it suits their purpose, and that's both sides.
Yeah, that very much is obviously both sides, and obviously this Twitter and the Elon Musk merger was obviously at the forefront of everything, because Twitter is a very it's
the public square if you're asking Elon Musk.
It's a powerful platform where people can get their voice out there and express their First Amendment rights. So obviously there's a battle.
Technically, no.
I understand that, but like
Right.
But that's why there's a battle for it, is because like,
what I'll say is this, if you thought a group was arbitrary, wait till it's just one guy. But moving on, the reason we jumped into Florida, or the reason I was trying to seg the way as smoothly as I could to the state of Florida deciding that it was going to end Disney's special tax status at Reedy Creek. That's what I want to talk about.
Okay, so what is Reedy Creek? Yeah, what is Reedy Creek?
So in 1967, the state of Florida gave the Disney Corporation the authority to govern essentially 38 square miles of Florida.
Yeah.
And it's called the Reedy Creek.
I forget what it's called.
The Reedy Creek Improvement District. There we are.
Oh, I thought it was blunt and was just the Reedy Creek Tax District. But okay, the improvement,
which is basically what it is. So it's a special. So the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which is a special tax district. Now, why is it a special tax district? What does it do? So the point of a special tax district is that you are taking an area out of the county or counties that it may reside.
Well, in this case, it's kind of over 2 counties, but yeah.
Yeah, you're giving it the ability to behave as if it's its own independent county. Mm-hmm. It's its own municipal government. And so when you do that, whoever you're giving this special tax status to gets the responsibility and the right to provide all those services that the county would otherwise be required to do. Mm-hmm. So what that's done. So in Disney's case, what that did is that allowed them they tax themselves. So they do their own property taxes. They can do their own bond issuances as if they are a government. So they have municipal bond standing. So essentially you can deduct them on your taxes, or they're not. Yeah. But you know that these are municipal bonds, but they're backed by the Disney Corporation. So you're getting paid.
It's still kind of confusing to me. But basically, like when Disney was looking for a place to build Disney World, obviously everybody wanted Disney to build Disney World in their state.
A lot of places did. But they wanted Florida. They did want Florida.
Obviously, because Florida is fantastic weather-wise.
It is one of 50 states in this nation, is about the furthest I will go. And I am from Florida for anyone who
so would you build Disney World in Nebraska?
I would absolutely not do that.
That's what I'm saying. But like, because Florida is fantastic weather-wise. You can get tourists there every month of the year.
Florida makes sense from a lot of perspectives. The weather is kinder year round.
It's better than
and then you
Alabama
can have people say,
South Carolina.
To my knowledge, and I remember this very vaguely as a young person, it has only snowed in Orlando once.
Yeah.
And it melted when it hit the ground.
Yeah. As I remember. One of those states where it doesn't snow. So people, like, when it's cold out and there's New Yorkers, they're gonna come to Florida.
Yeah,
places like Florida.
Exactly. And it already had tourism, so there were incentives. So Disney World was being built, but they'd already built Disneyland in California. They'd had problems with California, with the local governments. Yeah. And so when they came to Florida, they petitioned the state for the Reedy Creek Improvement District, so a special tax district where they could control a lot of their own stuff themselves. It was granted, and Disney World became the theme park heaven that we know and love. When you marry the mouse, there's issues though. So the Reedy Creek Improvement District is responsible for providing power utilities.
Yeah, they provide their own energy, sewage, plumbing, law enforcement.
Police departments, their fire departments, so law enforcement, fire departments, all the inspections and inspectors who would normally be run by the county. They have their own tax collection aspects. They do all of that. They do their own infrastructure, so roads.
Yeah, which is why they have very nice roads. Obviously, because they run it like a business, right? They have to make everything look good.
So when you go to Disney, you'll notice that that the roads are very, very nice, and you'll always wonder, hey man, why are the rest of Orange County or other parts of that area's roads not as good? And the
counties are not run. They're not run like businesses.
The county's paying for those, and Disney's paying for theirs. And that's how that works.
Yeah, but also counties are not run like businesses. If they were,
not as a whole.
Yeah, but like you're not trying to maximize profits in counties.
Well, counties have. Let's put it this way: counties have fewer methods of
income.
It's a lot harder for counties.
There aren't very many revenue streams.
Fewer income methods, and it's a lot harder for a county to legitimately accrue $1 billion just for roads without people going, these are not very good bonds. Whereas if Disney's doing it, or Reedy Creek, which is Disney, you're going to go, this is safe.
Yeah, but the nice thing about Disney is that they issue Reedy Creek bonds or whatever they're called, and they're also graded as they're graded in the same light. Almost as municipal bonds.
So for tax purposes, they're municipal bonds, but from a credit rating standpoint, you look at it and you go, it's Disney. Right? Yeah. They will not default on this debt, and I get municipal incentives. Done. Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Win-win.
So even to the point where credit rating, we're on the passing the law, and DeSantis signing this law, which essentially is removing all special districts that existed before 1968. Yeah. So it's very clear that they are they're trying to target Disney without obviously targeting Disney. But to be fair, as it's the only district that existed before 1968, so it's very clear what they're doing.
I know, and like let's talk about why it happened, because it's a little bit important. Basically, I don't want to get too detailed, but basically there was a political war that has been waged against Disney.
State of Florida passed a law.
Yeah, state of Florida it's basically state of Florida versus House of Mouse, and
we're going to see who wins.
We're going to see who wins.
So here's the thing. Disney is the largest single employer in the state of Florida.
Yeah. And then I don't know if Disney issued a statement. So this is the thing is I don't like it when companies issue a statement politically, whether it's for the side that I go on or against the side. I don't like it either way. But if Bob Iger came out and said something and supported, I don't care. Like if he personally said that, I don't care. But if like the company as a whole comes out and says something, I don't like that. And so I don't know if Disney. I don't know if Disney as a whole, as a company, came out and said something against
Disney. Disney employs 80,000 people in the state of Florida, and I think Disney.
No, it was the employees that made Disney.
Yeah, Disney didn't initially. Disney didn't say anything. Then the employees were like,
made Disney. That's right.
What the hell are you doing?
They said,
and then Disney said fine, and Disney voiced the concerns of their employees, which is it's
at that point, if you're Disney, you're caught between a rock and a rock. Like it's
you're and the problem is at this point you're sitting here going, man, I really need to keep my employees happy because it is not a great time to find and train new ones.
So I felt bad for Disney. That really sucked. The fact that everybody was boycotting Disney from an internal standpoint, and then Disney came out and said what they said against the state of Florida and against their governor, and then the governor was like, "Okay, Disney wants to play politics. I can play politics too." And then that's why we're in this situation.
So this law doesn't dissolve the district until June of 2023. So we've got a year and some time. So it seems very clear this is political posturing to me. I don't think it's actually going to go through. But if it does, let's look at that doom and gloom.
Yeah,
I love doom and gloom.
This is the thing about the whole situation is that Disney is screwed without Florida, and Florida is
screwed without Disney. Let's be fair.
Let's be honest. I mean, 80,000 employees, the largest single employer in the entire state. Man, do those salaries and those wages benefit a bunch of other industries there?
Think about all the tourists who come through the airport, who come through the hotels. How much of Central Florida's economy is based on, and Universal Studios too, but based on the theme parks?
Yeah.
How much of the industrial services being provided to those places? So the guys who actually go out and maintain the roads for Disney, how many those contractors? The guys who contract to do all the. So like it's not just the direct. There's all the indirect jobs that service that, and it's huge.
Yeah, but it's like the people that service the rides, the maintenance crew, the police officers for Disney, right? The people the people that dress up as the princesses, they all make money from Disney, and they all go and spend their money at other places because Disney paid them their wage to do that.
And so the big one is right now, if we look at the fact that when the liabilities are assumed by the counties, so assuming that this doesn't go away, and next year the Reedy Creek Improvement District is dissolved, all of those liabilities are going to be assumed by, I think generally speaking, it's Orange County. Which, for those of you that really want to know where I'm from, I grew up in Orange County. My parents live there to this day. So you got a 1 in, 3.2 million chance of running into him somewhere if you happen to be in Orange County. It's less good than that, but I think about this, and I just look at it from a purely property tax standpoint. The state of Florida has no personal income tax, which was a great thing because they have tourist taxes, which pay for a lot of that. And of course, Disney's got a lot of those tourist taxes we gone too, so that'll be fun. Yeah. Property tax is a pretty big deal, and the tax assessor for Orange County, when looking at this, came out and just essentially said, if this occurs, he expects Orange County property taxes to increase between 20 and 25%. Yeah,
this is the thing
is going to take to cover these liabilities, because the assumption is that those liabilities will fall entirely on Orange County.
Okay, this is the thing is I think Disney is not going to stop paying the taxes all of a sudden because of this bill, right?
No,
if they say,
this is what happens next year in June. Well, the thing is they can't suddenly go, well, we'll just cover this for you to the county, because there's no mechanism for that. The county suddenly has to start paying for all of this, and the only way a county can is through its
right. But what I'm trying to say is like, why does? Because I don't think necessarily like if this bill gets passed, like what's going to happen with Disney is they're going to have to pay probably an additional $10 million a year in taxes, in property taxes, whether or not the counties themselves or the state of Florida increases the property tax rates.
Oh.
So
yes, but the counties, now the counties are going to have to provide all the services to Disney that Disney currently provides to itself.
Oh, gotcha. So you're talking about stuff like the county is going to have to repair their roads.
Counties have to repair their roads, pay for all their utilities, pay for all the maintenance, pay for all the infrastructure, pay for their police and fire department.
Well, but this is the thing is I work for a pretty big company. At the company that I work for, on the campus, on its real estate property, at the headquarters, they pay for the maintenance of their own parking lot. They pay for their own security team. So you're saying
security's not the police. That's
exactly.
That's one critical distinction. You have to have a fire department. You have to have the county is suddenly going to have to provide all these services, and it's going to cost the counties more money than they can get from Disney alone. So in order to pay for it, they're going to have to raise taxes.
So it's going to cost more than 10. So basically, the fact that Disney is going to pay $10 million a year in taxes.
Yeah,
that's what estimates say, like $10 to $12 million a year.
They'll pay 10 to 12 million more, but if in taxes, but if it costs $60 million
to pay for the police
to do it all,
to pay for
then the response is, well, you're still net down $50 million. So what's the cool?
Okay, so
that's $10 million more dollars. How much did it cost you to make that? 50. Oh, okay, you're not doing so good.
So that's where it comes from, right? I'm just trying to get to where it comes from because obviously, some people might, that's what.
Well, and it's easier to raise property taxes than it is to raise, say, sales taxes, because you can't raise sales taxes without the consent of the people, whereas property taxes can be raised by the government without a vote.
Oof, that's rough. Yeah, so I get that now.
So this is what I'm saying. So speaking of Twitter, Orange County tax collector Scott Randolph tweeted that if Reedy Creek is gone, so is the $105 million Disney collects from itself annually to operate those services, and that he predicted
that's the difference is the $105 million and then the
so they collect $105 million from themselves to operate their services, and if they're gone, then it's okay. Are we still going to collect $105 million from you? No, but say we have to match that $105 million, it's going to take. He predicted you would have to raise 20 to 25% increase in property taxes for Orange County residents, and then Osceola County, which is also on the line for some of this, said it is uncertain about its financial responsibilities going forward and will not be making any comments at this time.
Well, and I'll still say this because I think, I think at the end of the day, Disney's not going to move.
No.
There's no way. That would cost way too. They spent too much time to build what they have in Florida, and they spent way too much money to have what they have in Florida. So at the end of the day, I think Florida has the upper hand.
I don't.
But it's not a huge upper hand.
I don't, and here's why.
Nobody's going to leave. Nobody's going to leave Florida. I mean, not nobody, but Florida's not going to go bankrupt because Disney left.
So Florida's going to have a very serious demographic problem if this occurs. It already is a lot of people who are retired down there on fixed incomes.
Yeah.
And if property taxes start going up, they don't move to Florida anymore. They move to Texas. They move to Arizona.
Right. Yeah. The great state of Texas and Arizona, which is, where I'm from and where I currently live.
I know they're near and dear to your heart.
Yes. Both states are very near and dear to my heart. But yeah, I don't know. I just but to me, what Ron DeSantis has done, love him or hate him, what he's done to Florida's economy has been amazing in the last 3 years, right? So love him or hate him, he's been a very good governor in terms of just GDP and economic output. And I think the fact that there are a bunch of businesses moving to Florida, I don't know. I think Florida does have the upper hand.
I think Disney will file suit against the state of Florida claiming retaliation, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
It'll be very interesting. I think interesting is a great word for that.
I think it's a problematic decision. To show you how much we were taught about the state of Florida's legislature when I was there, I can't tell you how many people are in the state house or the state senate, but I think it's 67 in the state house because there's 67 counties and the state senate is however many. But my issue is the taxes on this will fall entirely on 2 counties, Orange and Osceola. So you have 65 other state representatives who may have voted yes on this, and my entire premise of that is, wow, you have no skin in this game. I don't know if you're allowed to vote yes on this.
Well, I don't know if you're allowed to vote. This is the thing is I get that property taxes are going to go up, right, by 25%.
But only in 2 counties.
Which is a lot, right? So, but at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that gets baked into the escrow or whatever people,
nope.
How.
I don't think this ever comes to pass. And if it does come to pass, I think you see I think you're going to see the state of Florida have to say, okay, then we're going to take the cost of running Disney World and we're going to split that out over all 67 counties of the state. Because you can't make a state decision that only affects 2 counties overnight like that. But even with a year's warning, it's not going to, I don't think it works.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, if Florida were to spread out all of that across the entire state, like if let's just say they all of a sudden decide to increase sales tax by
essentially, it would cost to deal with the $1 billion of liabilities that currently exist. It would cost each county $15 million.
Yeah, but it's not. But it's not going to happen right away. It's because like the $1 billion in liability, is that all due in the year?
No.
So that's what I'm saying.
That's just the total. That's the current liability. That's just the liabilities.
Yeah, but so it's over a lifetime, right? It's yeah. So there we go. So it's over a lifetime. Yeah. So like they don't have to bring in that tax revenue right now.
No, but they're going to have.
They can amortize.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you have to spread it to all the counties because you can't just put it on Orange Osceola. And then the next one is you then have to split that $105 million, which comes out to just about $2 million a county a year to operate it. Yeah, but that's fine. But
I also think like at the end of the day, like the cost of living, I don't think is going to be too much more expensive in Florida. What I'm trying to say, I'm just trying to argue that Florida does have the upper hand because I really think they do. Like, I think if they spread it out across the entire state, it's not going to increase the cost of living in Florida that much. And I still think with people leaving states like New York and Massachusetts in a hurry and they're going to places like Florida. And the thing is like one of the more popular move to states, if you look at like the 5 most popular move to states in the country, it's obviously Texas #1 and Florida's very high up there.
Yeah. So people are warm. They're warm, and they don't have state income tax. So, I mean,
So people are leaving states like New York and Massachusetts and Connecticut, and
they're leaving cold states with state income tax for warm states without it. But they're also moving when they don't have kids taking advantage of like the school system.
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, but
I can't speak to Texas, and I went to a good school in Florida. Yeah. But I can speak to the quality of education in that state.
But I understand that. But at the same time, a lot of young people are moving to Florida too. A lot of companies are moving their headquarters to Florida too because of the no state income tax and because of the fact that the weather is so nice there. And if companies are moving there, it's going to drive a lot of young college graduates, well-educated college graduates to that state. So I think at the end of the day,
which doesn't make the housing problem any better,
right? It doesn't. But I think at the end of the day, Florida is going to find a way with the fact that their economy has been doing like the state of Florida's economy has been doing so well in the last 3 years. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Florida does have the upper hand because of that, and it's not it's not a big upper hand. It's an upper hand against Disney as a company. Like it's a state versus a Fortune 500 company.
What I'll say is this. I think this is a lose-lose situation for both of them.
I think it is too.
There are no economic winners in this.
I agree.
There's a political winner, and only if this comes off right. If it doesn't come off right, even DeSantis will lose.
And I understand that. So DeSantis and Disney could be taking a poison pill. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah, they could both be. They could be shooting each other. They could be cutting off their noses to spite their face.
Right. Exactly. So fair enough. Right. But I do think the state of Florida has the upper hand because it's a state in the United States of America, which I think is much more valuable than a Fortune 500 company.
I think it's a little more tenuous, but
it is. I agree. I'm not saying it's a big upper hand because
here's the next thing. Every corporation that's now in Florida now knows that if you say anything the governor doesn't like, he will retaliate against you in law.
I think it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Is that do you disagree that those things have happened and in that order?
For Disney as a company, yes, but I do think it's more complicated. I do think it's way more complicated than that.
I agree, but I think that if you're any company, I think that if this stands, if you're any company, you now look at Florida as potentially dangerous because to headquarter or to put major investment into that you can't take with you when you leave. Because now, say you're a Republican, say you're a pretty conservative company, you make guns and gun accessories, which is not an unheard of thing in Orlando, especially.
Of course not.
Suddenly there's a Democrat running the state, and you say something, and he does something, and you come out and you loudly say that blah blah blah. He doesn't think you're doing a very good job, and then that he and his Democratic House in this hypothetical decide that they're going to take away tax breaks that you get.
No, I know. So I hear what you're saying.
I'm saying you've now got government retaliating against businesses specifically because the business that has been funding, let's be fair, most of the elected officials in Florida. Right. I think the ones that voted to get rid of Reedy Creek are about to lose any kind of money from Disney that they were getting.
That's where I think DeSantis is kind of playing the wrong game. Because
I think he's making some really interesting choices. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan
of his choices, and I get it. If a company wants to say something about a law that is currently in place, they're allowed to say it. Like if it's about a law. At the end of the day, it's about a law that's going to be passed. They said something about a law that's going to be passed.
It's in law now.
Oh,
so yeah, it is a law. It has passed.
But
it is a law.
But when it was happening, it was about to be passed. That's initially what happened. And I think at the end of the day, like, companies are allowed to voice their opinion on laws that are going to be passed. But, so I don't agree with this move.
Here's the funny thing. I'll tell you that it is my opinion that corporations do not have freedom of speech.
Really? I think they
but
do.
I still don't.
No,
I still don't think that that the state has the right to retaliate against a business for disagreeing with it.
You're right. No, but like I think if a state wants to pass a law, a company is definitely allowed to say, I don't agree with that law. As a company, I don't agree with that law.
Well, a company can say, look, this is theoretically or potentially damaging to my business.
Yeah.
You're lowering education standards. That's damaging to my business. I need educated employees.
Right. Exactly. And then at the end of the day, I think what the governor of Florida should have done is just like, okay, you're allowed to say those things, but if you lose business because you say these things, that's on you.
See, and that's okay. How I perceive it is that the government can't retaliate against you for exercising your freedom of speech. That's why you have your First Amendment rights, which obviously legally we know corporations do have corporate personhood and thus First Amendment protections. Yeah. But it's that the consumer is meant to then use their dollar, the almighty dollar, to decide whether or not that speech was appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of expressing your First Amendment rights, I've been expressing it all week long by wearing my Drunkenomics hoodie, which ironically is actually white.
That's awesome. Mine's that kind of grayish blue. And if you too would like to have some sweet ass Drunkenomics hoodies like us, and I think we also have hoodies in like 2-color hoodies.
Well, yeah, they come in dark black and even darker black.
They also come in light
and dark black. Because I wear a white one, and light black too.
They also, fun fact, I think they come in square logos too. I don't know. I don't think I have one of those.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, you can find yourself one of those at drunkenomics.myspreadshop.com.
Drunkenomics.myspreadshop.
So that's drunkenomics.myspreadshop.com. That's where you can get those mugs, those
sweet Drunkenomics
hoodies.
swag. Sometime next month, you might see me on a plane bound for Orlando, and I'll definitely be wearing my Drunkenomics hoodie, just throwing my flag out there.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, in about a week from now, I will be on a plane to Lincoln, Nebraska to reunite in person with my Drunkenomics co-host.
So we'll be able to record in person.
So insanely gracious host. Gosh, be less gracious, please, for just a second, man. Come on, let me catch up.
I've been gracing this place for a while, my man. Yeah. That's about as bad as the joke gets.
Yeah, if you want to finance his ever so graciousness, you can do so by going to Patreon. That's patreon.com.
Patreon.com/Drunkenomics. DRUNKENIM.
Yes! Oh man, you're so close, dude.
I know.
From there, if you go there, you can help us, keep the liquor cabinet stocked. What else?
Liquor cabinet stocked, the ice cubes frozen, the
ice frozen
full.
Yeah. The lights on, mic's hot, come on.
You could help us stay drunkenomical. That's what you can do.
That's definitely what you can do. And from there, like I said, check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We got some good content for you. We have a Wix blog, which I still have no idea what I'm doing with it, but we have some good articles on there. At least I think so. People in our Discord have said, people in our Discord have said, hey, these are good reads. I can't believe you guys actually write well too. Which I'm like, wait, we do anything well, let alone write well? Yes. Okay, well, thanks. Yeah. But yeah, with that said, I'm fully out of breath because I have filled and killed.
I have finished my drink as well.
Yeah. So
make sure last 2 drops.
So I guess we've both filled and killed and played chestnut checkers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that leaves us with one thing left, right?
Yeah. It only gets worse. Oh wait, no.
That's not it.
What is it?
I feel like.
Is it? Stay drunkenomical, my friends.
Cheers.
Cheers.